Are you ready to see some dirt midgets put on a show? We certainly are. Tonight, some of the best 15 and over dirt midget drivers and all of iRacing look to fight for hundreds of dollars in prizes. Who will come away with the top prize by the end of the season? Or better yet, who will start their championship bids off with a W? We're about to see here on the Global SimRacing channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Lanier Raceplex in Brazelton, Georgia for the opening race of the CSI Shocks Fall Series season. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Chris Bowlby, and behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Chris, tonight's venue is an interesting one here on the iRacing service. This track originally opened as a dirt facility back in the early 1980s before being paved in the middle of that decade. It also was closed, however, for parts of the 2010s, and it was even turned into a go-kart racing facility before hosting the past national championship finale just this past weekend. What can you tell us about this Georgia-based venue?
Well, the dirt version of this track, much like the pavement version, is 3/8 of a mile in length. We're going to see very quick laps around this track, probably sub 14 seconds. 5 to 11 degrees of banking here on the dirt surface here at Lanier Raceplex. And it's going to be a very interesting race on this wide track. So we're going to throw things down now to our virtual lap guide.
No lap guide apologies there, but either way, this is going to be an interesting race, especially with a bit of the banking throughout these corners this evening. It's the first race of the season. Let's take a chance to look at your race details for the start of this 5-round season. Should be an interesting one of these dirt midgets here, Chris.
Definitely, this is the first of 5 rounds for this series. Obviously in the dirt midget with a fixed setup. We're going to lock in the top 12 qualifiers into the A main, and then we're going to take the top 3 finishers in both heat races onto our main event. We're also going to invert the 12 fastest that locked in through qualifying to set our starting grid for the main event.
That puts a lot of emphasis, as you mentioned a bit there, on the qualifying to make sure you punch your ticket into the show. Because tonight's field for this year's competition is going to be very interesting and very strong. You have professional drivers from this year's Pro Series in iRacing's various different events, featuring guys like Justin Thompson, Cole Newhoffen, and Alex Bergeron, who was strong in the springtime. You also have a various mixture of real-world drivers and varying levels of experience also fighting for the various prizes for this fall series here, Chris.
Yeah, definitely a nice mix of experience in these cars in the real world. It's going to make for a very interesting race as we see who can really be the best on these changeable dirt track conditions.
As the drivers continue on with practice, we'd like to remind you that the Global SimRacing channel has its own merchandise store now. From there, you can buy items such as a GSRC flat-bill baseball cap. That way, you can let the best hips out wherever you are across the world. To buy one of the coolest hats, you will see this block of SimRacing. That's at gsrcstore.storenvy.com. Meanwhile, as you can see the practice times along some of the screen, as well as that beautiful hat, there are 2 different options on that Global SimRacing channel store. The time's about 13.9s to the 14.7s as they continue to work in the surface on this racetrack.
That's right. One thing very cool about the dirt racing is how dynamic the track surface can really be.
Yeah, later on this evening when they start the heat races, that track state will reset to about 30% and carry over to the mains. We'll detail that a little bit on later on. Let's talk about what these drivers will be competing for prize-wise. The season series champion will come away with a Samsung tablet with PitLogic on board and a $500 shock package discount, a value of about $750. Second prize is going to be a CSI apparel gift pack, a $250 shock package discount. As well as for third place, they will also get that same pack with a $100 shock package discount. And those could be very important, especially with the PitLogic to help with your setups, as well as that shock package to help you build your race cars.
That's right. Those are very useful tools for getting the car dialed in, and of course you can't discount a good discount, as these drivers can get a deal on a shock package from CSI, which is obviously going to be very helpful for their racing.
Indeed, right now these drivers have about 9 minutes or so left on their practice sessions to continue to prepare things. As we talked about, 3/8 of a mile distance on this race circuit. They're currently separating the drivers amongst 2 different practice groups trying to prepare themselves. One of the more interesting things though when it comes to this track layout is it's a bit of a decent amount of banking, meaning that cushion could be one of the preferred lines. Other drivers though throughout the practice session have been trying to test near the bottom wall, near the berm in fact, to try and see if they can pull off slide jobs. So far, the lanes have been about even in terms of lap times, it seems. Chris?
Yeah, it's great to see the variety in the lines being ran around this track. You have guys that can run right up against the wall and guys that are searching around trying the inside line, and I'm sure once we get to race time, it's going to be a little more unique than even what we're seeing here in practice.
Yeah, remember this track, the last time it had dirt in real life was around the early to mid 1980s. Much of this track currently paved in real life with this facility. Falling on board with some of the cars as they continue to prepare on this racetrack. It's going to be a fun one, I think, overall, as this 5-week season progresses. For these drivers and their teams, the best 4 results out of the 5 weeks will count towards their championship standings, meaning, of course, with there only being 5 races in the first place, there's not a lot of room for error here, Chris, throughout these next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's not a lot of time to make any mistakes. So no mulligans, really, when you think about it. You have to try to put in your best performance every time you're on the track, and it can be very easy to slip down the standings if you just make one misstep.
Especially since there is just a 10 incident limit. You do have a fast repair available if need be. However, there's a chance you might be laps down if you have to use it. All the races for this season will be under the lights, and all the drivers, as mentioned in that race details graphic, fixed setups, meaning for some of these drivers, including the ones from the professional ranks in real life or on the sim, they're going to have to adjust in fairly quickly to these fixed sets to make sure they know how to drive these cars as fast as they can to try and make sure they punch their tickets to the mains.
And that's also going to level the playing field a lot too, if you think about it, Justin. I mean, these guys aren't going to be coming in here with trick setups that they've spent countless hours here in the sim trying to get set up to make the car perfect to them. They're going to jump into these cars and they're just going to have to make chicken salad out of it, if you know what I mean.
One of the cars you're following along with, by the way, that's Bryson Smith in the middle of your screen. He's currently in a bit of a slide job battle with Jake Erickson, who's trying to come up for the inside line of this practice, as Erickson able to pull off the slide job as they test things now 3 wide with the car coming out of the pit lane. But as mentioned, some drivers from the real world, it's going to be some of these drivers brought forward in part with the prize package available, meaning some of these drivers may not have the sim resume, but the real world experience far surpasses that on the dirt, because it's kind of difficult when you think about it to try and race on the said dirt, because usually you go by feel. Depending on your setup, you might not have the same advantages as being in the real car.
Yeah, that's definitely a very fair point, Justin, when you think about what these drivers are doing, trying to get these cars in line for the whole program here tonight.
As you can see on the left side of your screen, by the way, it's Austin Irvine that is on top of the practice boards in the 51 machine. Colton Harvey at 13.912, followed by Kenny Miller, Cole Newhoffen, and Will Sylvester. All those drivers separated by under 3/4 of a tenth. In terms of lap time, Justin Thomas is 6th at the moment. And you've got guys like Roman Gephardt who are in one of the CSI machines. But these cars are very fun ones to watch, in real life especially. You have drivers like Kyle Larson, who compete in these dirt midgets on a daily basis. Guys like Christopher Bell. They are very fun and fast machines to drive across really any circuit on the calendar.
Yeah, and not to mention some of the most prestigious events in dirt track racing are ran with these midget cars. You think about events like the Chili Bowl. That's one of the most prestigious events in short track racing in general. And it's these midgets running indoors even throughout the wintertime. These cars are really throwbacks to kind of the old barnstorming days of motorsports when you think about the type of schedule they run as well.
Speaking of schedule, as these drivers have about 4 minutes left of the practice session, here's a listen to your schedule for the fall series this season. Lanier is at the top of the schedule, then they go to Limaland for round number 2. Then they head to the dirt track at Charlotte for round number 3. To Kokomo they go for round 4. Then to the Chili Bowl you mentioned for round 5. It's going to be interesting to see how they drive because all those tracks fairly different in characteristics, especially, as you mentioned, the prestige of the Chili Bowl.
You got to say there's some tracks I'm really looking forward to getting the chance to call a race at. That, growing up, I was what some would refer to as a tar baby. I like the asphalt racing, so this dirt racing is really a kind of a trial by fire thing for me, Justin, and I got to say, watching these cars slide around here, it's pretty fun so far.
It's going to be a fun night. And there's going to be a lot of pressure still for the qualifying here. Currently, let's take a quick look at the weather conditions, by the way. They are adjusted to pick up on the real weather conditions. In real life, partly cloudy skies, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, with the track temp of 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind not a factor, just 2 miles an hour to the north. Humidity, as we expect, around 56%, similar to what we've seen with some events. That also looking to not potentially be a factor. But here's one of the main things, though, when it comes to as this race goes on for the viewers that have watched these events. The more they battle on this racetrack, the more tougher it will be because of that dynamic changing track surface. Drivers trying to find the best places to get grip. Some drivers trying to slide through the slick stuff on the early portions of runs. In this practice session, most of the slick stuff is already gone already. And they've been practicing for nearly 15 plus minutes or so, making nearly 25 minutes.
Yeah, one great feature of this dirt surface is exactly that, the dynamic changing surface. And the more rubber they get laid down, eventually this will be racing a lot closer to what we see on asphalt than dirt towards the end.
Indeed, you're taking a look at some of the drivers still coming across the racetrack. This is Hardy that is second on the board as he tries to continue to get things together. One of the Swindell Speed Labs machines trying to come across this racetrack. He's again one of the cars to potentially watch for tonight as he nearly squeezes Kenny Miller up towards the fence and his GVI Kiwi machine. A lot of names, again, as mentioned, that we are going to be watching tonight, especially once we start this qualifying in about 90 seconds or so here for this evening. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, you see these guys, they're already slicing and dicing with each other around this track, and it's amazing the amount of trust we're seeing between these guys out there on the track.
Indeed, at this point, about 1 minute left on the practice session, then we'll be qualifying. Remember, it is we'll talk about the format in just a few moments, but qualifying is going to be important. Remember those times up on that practice board, 30, 13, 8, 9, 1, to as low as 15 seconds for a majority of these drivers, as we're just about to get set to go for this qualifying session. You want to start off the season, though, with a right note, Chris. You don't want to be down the 8 ball early.
Yeah, and I think qualifying is going to be a big part of that sense of being behind the 8 ball, Justin. I mean, the top 12 cars right now, just over a half second splitting the top 12. And the difference between being locked in and having to transfer in from the heats is 0.025 seconds roughly. Actually less than that. I mean, that is a very tight margin between being locked into the feature and having to race for your life.
Indeed, but the drivers are all set to go for qualifying for the opening round of the CSI Shocks Fall Series. With that, let's get to tonight's qualifying details presented by PitLogic. PitLogic is the most comprehensive chassis and shock setup application on the market. Available on Google Play or the Apple App Store. You can also check it out at competitionsuspension.com/CSI Logic app. Drivers getting their final instructions as you look at the qualifying details. They will have 3 laps and 5 minutes to set their fastest times. The top 12 drivers immediately lock themselves into the feature. However, they will have an invert for those qualifiers, meaning if you're 13th on down, you'll have to go through the heat system.
And Justin, you can see on the camera view there that rubbered in groove, we're starting at about 45% track usage right now. And you can see they're working in a groove pretty good there.
Yeah, a little bit more worked in compared to what we see or will see for some of the heats. Some of the first times coming in, 14.717 from Brendan Rogers, Harry Stewart a 14.754, and you're following along with one of the other, still following along with Rogers. He tries to pick up speed. His third lap a 14.724, couple 1,000s off his first time, his second best overall. Here comes Chalk, someone that is seen basically everywhere. Tyler Chalk seen a lot of the pavement side, just finished up his last times. He is second on the provisional board. Emerson Ekstrom in third at the moment, Stewart and Randall. Let's take a look though at Bergeron as he tries to finish his last attempt. Second lap, did not commute, potentially scraped the wall. One of the top dirt racers in all of iRacing. Can he move up the qualifying board? No, a 14.933. Taking a and a new pole sitter, it is Austin Irvine, the top driver in practice. He's getting ready for his second lap using the bottom.
Yeah, already seen a lot of great variety in which line these drivers are trying to use to find the quickest way around the track. A lot of them trying to stay above that rubbered in section on the track where maybe there's not as much adhesion.
That time of 14.895 finishes off Irvine's times. As we take a look at the next machine up on your screen, that is Stidham. That is currently having a bit of technical issues, but is currently in the 6th position. Last lap was a 14.772. This lap, a 7.55. Does move him up a little bit, but not in terms of positioning up on the racetrack. Already, just about every single driver has put in qualifying times, at least one attempt up on the board. And it's even tighter than in practice here, Chris. The separation just 0.3 of a second from the first spots to the bottom of the pole.
Not only that, only 1/100th of a second separates in from out right now, Justin.
Again, remember, it's the top 12. Some drivers are practicing and trying to turn laps. But here is your current top 12. It is Austin Irvine first by 1/1000th of a second of Brendan Rogers. Tyler Chalk is in third. Emerson Ekstrom in fourth position. Harry Stewart, Colby Stidham along with Chase Randall. Hunter Brady along with Alex Bergeron. Rounding out some of the positions is Jeffrey Stewart, Kelly Miller, and Jake Erickson amongst the rest of the drivers. As you see up on the pole on the side of your screen, a very competitive qualifying session to lock a lot of competitors into the show this evening.
Yeah, we're closing in on, looks like 1 minute left to run, and looks like the track may be getting a little bare.
Remember, the track state will go down to 30% for these drivers for the heat races. We'll look at the details in just a moment. But a couple drivers of note that will have to go to the bottom and through the heats. Out of the 26 entered drivers, 14 total look to go through the heat system. Amongst them, Cole Newhoffen, Justin Thomas, as well as drivers like Seth Bergman and Zachary DeLonge, some of the drivers to keep an eye on throughout this evening's events. Drivers getting the last of their instructions here, Chris, here. What you're expecting once we get back to green flag racing for the first heat?
We got a lot of big names that have to race their way into this one, Justin, and I think with that, we're going to see some very exciting heat race action here to start things off.
Drivers just about set to go to take the track as we get ready to start things off. Here is how they will line up for heat race number 1 here on the Global Sim Racing channel for the opening round of the 15 and over CSI Shocks Fall Series class. It is Bryson Smith starting on the pole alongside Cole Newhoffen. In row number 2, it is Billy Rulli, a podcast host, setting to start against Roman Gephardt in row number 2. Sean Maffrey starts in 5th with Will Sylvester in 6th, with Justin Thomas all the way back in 7th. Peyton Grease is in 8th with Zachary DeLonge in 9th. Rounding up the top 10 starting positions tonight here, Chris, is Seth Bergman.
Yep, then closing out the field is going to be Bo Stanzel in the 09 car, followed by Colton Hardy. We'll be starting P12. Lucky number 13 is Justin Brester. And then Sam Johnson completes our 14-car grid for this first of 2 heat race events.
Johnson family helping organize things with CSI Shocks for this evening's action, as that's a look at your starting grid for tonight's races. For the first heat race, rather. Let's take a look at those details, once again brought to you by PitLogic, as the drivers wait to get going behind the iRacing official pace truck. The details up on your screen: 15 laps distance, with there being 26 entries, just the one heat race this evening. However, it's going to be important that you finish well and be up at the front. Just 3 drivers advance into the feature.
And you're going to see a lot of strategy there too. If you're running in that 3rd spot and you have a pretty good margin, but you're closing in on 2nd place, do you go for that spot or do you hang on to the transfer spot and let it run?
Once again, it is the top 3 from this heat race. Then the drivers will have 5 minutes to work themselves around the racetrack. 15 laps to do things here once again at this 3/8 mile oval racetrack. Let's talk a little bit about Lanier as well in terms of this. There is a little bit of banking in the corners, both in real life with the pavement as well as in turn with this dirt track. So the banking, the cushion, was used by a lot of drivers just below that outside wall much of the practice. However, in the later portion of the run, drivers trying to test themselves around the berm in that inside pit wall. It'll be interesting to see how they battle and how they try and fight their way up to the front here, Chris.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of different interpretations on how to handle this track.
iRacing official pace truck moving its way through turns 1 and 2 as we get all set to go to start the CSI Shocks Fall Series. Again, Bryson Smith in control of the field in the Sparco number 33 machine. Pace truck working its way towards turns 3 and 4 to the pit entry. It goes to the left pedal. The drivers go. Green flag is out. The first heat race of the CSI Shocks Fall Series is underway.
As expected, Justin, these guys going about 5 wide into the first corner. It seems like slipping and sliding all around. A lot of great racing already under.
Cole Newhoffen sliding his way up to the lead at the end of lap number 1. That's not a surprise. Newhoffen, one of the better drivers in all of iRacing. He's in a slide chop battle with Roman Gephardt, though. Gephardt tries to slide up high. Going for the crossover is Newhoffen as he takes the lap lead.
And they're still side by side as they come off the corner. Now the crossover. Cole Newhoffen to the inside, tries to slide up above it. That now opens the door, and Gephardt right back by to reclaim the lead.
Remember, top 3 move on to the show. Maffrey tried to send it behind them, loses some ground in the slide job. Newhoffen tries to slide it up the racetrack in turn 4. Gephardt once again retakes the lead. Bryson Smith once again is on the bubble spot as cars collide for 4th position. Lonely and Maffrey nearly turning around as Hayden Breeze moves on by to 4th position, trying to give chase to Smith.
tremendous battle for the lead going on. Cole Newhoffen still trying to find the quick way around Roman Gebhardt, but Gebhardt sliding around the track just the right way. Now Newhoffen looks to the outside as they head to turn number 1.
Two drivers already done. DeLonge and Hardy done for the night. They have pulled off the racetrack and into the garage area. You keep an eye on that top 3. It's slowly closing to the 3rd position though. Bryson Smith losing ground to the top 2, while Grease nearly gets hit from behind as Maffrey again sent a massive slide job and lost 2 positions of progress. Lead is still up for grabs though as Newhoffen tries to work the cushion. Gebhardt watches as Newhoffen gives the slide job. Up the track, down the banking though goes Gebhardt for the race lead again.
Gebhardt has just been masterful with those crossbacks. He gets passed by Newhoffen and immediately is able to duck right back underneath him and retake the lead.
Oh, and they
make contact.
Gebhardt gets hit on the front. He still keeps going as he tries to go back for the slide job. Newhoffen back inside as they fight down the front straightaway. 5 laps to go in the first heat race of the season. Down to the inside goes Gebhardt, side by side down the backstretch.
Looks like things might be beginning to heat up for that final transfer spot as Peyton Grease now closing in on the 33 and Bryson Smith for the final transfer position.
Gebhardt meanwhile up in front with a massive slide job. Grease, he's going to need to gain some ground and quick. Last time by was a 10th slower than Bryson Smith. Up in the front, just a couple laps to go for Gebhardt. 3 to go as he goes back for the slide job. Over-rotates as he loses momentum. Newhoffen pulls away. Opens up the door for the battle for second. Smith gives himself a cushion. Can't get the slide job though. It's Gebhardt. He's second and Grease moves up top with 2 to go.
Yeah, Smith did not calculate that move correctly. Lost a lot of ground. He's now given up the final transfer spot. Oh, he goes around.
He spins at a 360. We stay green. White flag is up on the stand. Peyton Grease controls the bubble spot. Gebhardt in second. Cole Newhoffen up in the front though. Comes through turns 3 and 4. Will take the first heat race victory of the CSI Shocks Fall Series season. Second spot Gebhardt. Grease moves on in the final transfer spot. Those 3 drivers move on to the show here, Chris.
Yeah,
let's take a look at. Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at the quick results, though. Sean Maffrey came away in 4th, Bill Rowley in 5th, Sylvester in 6th, Brester in 7th, Smith in 8th, Bergman in 9th, and a rough race for Justin Thomas finishing in 10th position. Rest of the cars not on the lead lap, Chris.
Yeah, Bo Stenzel, Colton Hardy, Zachary DeLonge, and Sam Johnson unable to complete the.
That's a look at your heat race results for this evening. The drivers, though, will have 5 minutes to prepare. 18 drivers once again in the show for the A main for tonight's racing action. Chris, what did you pick up on as we've seen those battles intensify up the front?
Well, it's definitely going to be a premium on being precise with your movements. Just a couple under calculations by these drivers, and they lost some heavy spots. We saw the 33 not even make the show because he overestimated what kind of grip he was going to have.
And now it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers react to the inversion as well, because some of the fastest drivers going to be towards the heart of the field instead of being up at the front. It's going to put themselves into a bit of traffic for tonight's action.
Yeah, if these guys want to run up front, they are going to have to work for it. Some of the quicker guys are going to be deep in the heart of the field, and it's going to be a march to get to the front as quick as they can.
About 3.5 minutes until we get underway for the first feature race of the fall season. And from what you picked up on, who are you keeping an eye on based on what we've seen in the practices, the qualifying, and for some of the drivers, the ones that'll start the back and have to compete against successful drivers in the Pro Series as well as in the Series this spring, such as Bergeron and others such as this man?
Well, I think we got a lot of names in this series that these people watching at home are probably very familiar with. You have the drivers who saw the heat races that put on a great show. Roman Gebhardt put on a passing clinic there for a while, and faded towards the end. But if he's able to keep up that type of momentum through the feature event, we could see him march into one of the power positions.
Have to keep an eye on Austin Irvine as well. Again, runs in the sprint cars and real life on the West Coast. Actually, just a few days ago, finished in the top 8 in his feature event at Kern County Raceway. Almost to one of his last races of the entire 2019 season. Now he's into the virtual world, and he's been consistently up to the top of the board.
Yeah, definitely a lot of names we're familiar with from the motorsports world, and great to see these drivers here putting in some time in this warm-up. It goes to show that none of these guys are resting on their laurels here. Everybody wants to get some laps in and get this track dialed in.
Right now in this warm-up, he is in the 3rd position. But remember, the track state does carry over from the heat races, so the laps they're putting on right now are going to affect the lines. There is less slick stuff through turns 3 and 4, for example. Or, pardon me, I should flip that in 1 and 2 compared to what we see in 3 and 4, for example.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool features that have been programmed into these dirt tracks is that dynamic surface, and we've hit on it a couple times, Justin. But you'll be able to see, as you can see on your screen right now, the track's starting to get rubbered in. You can really see that line on the track, and these drivers will have to negotiate around that and really do some searching on the banks here to try and find what the quick way to be.
Now you're looking at some of the cars, such as Exum trying to get by guys like Bergeron up on the top side, and Grease, and others who are trying to work themselves along the cushion to make sure they have about 50 seconds before we get underway here. Your final thoughts before we start tonight's A-Main.
Well, for those of you watching at home, this is going to be a great race. Make sure to strap in, and if your chairs came equipped with a seatbelt, it might be time to use it.
We'll see how many elect to use the seatbelts, or how many are standing up from those seats and cheering in front of their home monitors. Again, these drivers finishing up the last of the warm-up times for tonight's racing action. A lot of these cars going to have to start through the thick of things in terms of the field. The times shuffled a bit compared to practice earlier tonight, where they're in the 14.2s to 7s. Drivers in qualifying were in the 14.7s. Right now in the warm-ups, they're down to the 14.9s on average. But we're just about all set to go for tonight's A-Main for the first race of the CSI Shocks Fall Series 15 and over class season. Let's take a look at your details first. These are presented by Competition Suspension Incorporated. CSI has become the shock of choice for many of today's top professionals. They have won over 5,000 races and many track, regional, and national championships around the world. To learn more, visit competitionsuspension.com. These drivers will be racing 40 laps tonight. Again, as mentioned, in inversion in the field, track state does carry over from the warm-up. These drivers just finished on the circuit. Again, a fixed setup race as they get ready to go for the starting grid. Let's take a look at those starters out of the 18 drivers in tonight's A-Main. The driver who got the top of the board after the draw was Kobe Stidham. He'll start alongside Harry Stewart. Emerson Exum starts in 3rd position alongside Tyler Chalk and row 2. Brendan Rogers starts 5th. Austin Irvine all the way back in the 6th position. He was the fastest driver in practice and qualifying before tonight's events got underway. Chase Randall in 7th. Hunter Brady in 8th, with Alex Bergeron in the thick of things in 9th. And Jeffrey Stewart rounds out the top 10 here, Chris.
Going through the rest of your field, 11th is going to be Kenny Miller, followed by Jake Erickson, then Cole Newhalfen from the heat race, as well as Roman Gephardt, Peyton Grease, and we have Sean Mahaffey, Billy Rowley, Will Sylvester. And that's going to complete your field here for a 40-lap event coming up for the Dirt Midgets.
Who's going to come away with the first victory of this 5-week season? We're about to find out. Stidham in control of the field. iRacing official pace truck is off. To the low pedal they go. Green flag is up for racing at Lanier Raceplex. Already a strong run on the inside line. Stewart slide jumps his way up to the point. The crossover back, not enough momentum for Stidham. First lap goes to Stewart.
And these guys are multiple grooves wide already here, racing for position.
Oh, contact! Contact in the pack, a couple cars spinning, Sylvester and Gephardt. We still stay green. As we can, Austin Irvine also losing some spots with some contact. He's now outside the top 10, back in 11th. However, a majority of the top 6 all the way up at the cushion, while other drivers try and search for grip and slide through the slick stuff.
Yeah, a lot of these guys thinking they're going to have to try something different if they want to get their way marched up to the front. We have a caution on the track.
Caution is out. Jeffrey Seward is upside down to bring out the first yellow of tonight's race. Let's take a look at this. He was in the 10th position at the flag stand and then got into some contact after some cars spun in front of him and then got flipped upside down.
Yeah, looks like it wasn't even really the meat of the incident that ended him up on his lid. It looks like afterwards he's still tangled with other cars. Everyone was sort of driving away from the incident.
That's Kenny Miller that got spun around there as there was a bit of over-rotation from Chase Randall. In turn, the stack-up eventually sees him get on 2 wheels and eventually flip down the banking on top of somebody to bring out the first caution. And that was the Hornet's Nest, as some call it. At that time, it stunned a couple drivers.
Yeah, of all the places you want to be at the racetrack, on your lid is definitely not one of them.
Lights are out on top of the iRacing official page as we're about to get back underway for racing here at Lanier Raceplex. 33 laps to go, up on the board. Harry Stewart this time in control of the field. He's off and away, we're back to racing.
Well, Stidham not hesitating to try to make a move, but now he's under threat from that 20 car Brennan Rogers, who had a great restart.
A bunch of cars already playing bumper tag. Irvine getting hit from behind by a couple drivers. One hits the wall. It's Exum. Able to keep it back on 4 wheels. He loses a couple positions as Irvine tries to go 3 wide through the middle to the slick stop. Exum checks up as Irvine completes the slide job.
Yeah, that wasn't just losing a couple spots there, Justin. He ended up completely tipping the car over, bouncing back onto 4 wheels and keeping it rolling. That was amazing. He's lucky he didn't severely damage the car. However, we have seen cars flip and then eventually come towards the front in real life. But Irvine, he wants to get up to the front. He's battling hard for 4th position, trying to go for the slide job on the inside of that purple and black and yellow machine. Yeah, Irvine giving it all he has as we have a switch up at the front of the field.
Stidham wanting the slide job for the race lead. Crossover back by Harry Stewart. Stewart tries to slide back up to the cushion. Holds up the momentum of Kobe. Kobe tries to go hard to the inside towards the pit wall. A massive dive. Loses momentum though. Stewart carries his momentum back up to the point once more.
Yeah, these two are just dancing around the track like they've planned this. It is absolutely insane.
Let's take a look at this onboard from Bergeron. He's lost the spot to Irvine, who hits the outside wall. Bergeron gets the spot back as he rides through the slick stuff once again, this time to the middle groove. And Bergeron not using the all the way up to the cushion line quite yet, as he passes by Irvine once more.
Yeah, Irvine pretty much the top drive. Oh, caution on the track.
Caution flag is out. And drivers being told to hold up. It's for Hunter Brady. The orange number 10 machine. You'll see this on the GSRC replay. He got some contact from behind just after a technical issue. And that's unfortunate there for him.
Yeah, sometimes when you blink out like that, where you end up back on the track isn't always known to the drivers behind you, and sometimes you'd actually appear in the same piece of real estate and does not always end well.
Again, we're back under the yellow flag. One driver has elected to come down the pit lane. It is Tyler Chalk. There is a faster pair available to these drivers. He is the first to elect to come down the lane and do so here, it appears, in the 07. He tries to go in the middle of the infield now all of a sudden. Okay, with that, drivers are still lined up behind the iRacing official pace truck, but the light's off here. So chalk to the back of the field as a result. However, Harry Stewart in control of the field, Stidham in control of the outside line. Third position, Rogers. Bergeron in the fourth position. Pace truck is off. To the gas pedals again they go. Green flag as they go near 3 wide into turn 1.
And once again, the field spreads out right as they cross the line. And you have cars literally all over the track here trying to find the quick way to...
Rogers finding some speed and momentum on the bottom of 3 and 4 that time by. They're 3 wide for the race lead. He tries to slide down near the berm. Well, Stewart still carries the momentum up on the top side. He rides towards the cushion with the slide as Bergeron and Irvine collide for 4th.
Yeah, Irvine getting a heck of a run there. Looks like it might have caught out the 20 of Rogers as he slowed up a little bit. But Rogers is right there digging on that very bottom of the track.
Taking a look from the back end of Harry Stewart as he sees Stidham still continue to fight up the front. Rogers is to 3rd for the time being, but Bergeron, he is hungry. So is Irvine. He tries to slide jump 2 drivers, can't get either spot, however. But here comes Axum. He nearly flipped his axles upside down. He's trying to catch up to this battle as well.
Yeah, these cars are surprisingly resilient, Justin. Some of these guys have literally been on 2 wheels at one point, and they're still able to continue on.
Heck of a slide job battle still between Irvine and Bergeron. Bergeron still continues to ride the cushion, while Irvine nearly gets hit behind by Axum as he tries to go for the slide job. Top 5 making top 6 are still up towards the outside wall, trying to find any sort of mistakes to try and capitalize on, as we're about 15 laps to go in this A main.
Ooh, Irvine makes contact with the back of Bergeron, ends up jumping the front wheels. He still keeps it going, but he's lost a lot of...
Bergeron, though, able to hold on to the 4th position. He rides again, still in the cushion. That 3rd position driver in the blue car is Brendan Rogers, who still looks to try and hold on. Bergeron, though, we've seen him come from the back of the field to the front of the field in league races before. It's going to be tough, as everyone, though, is underneath the blanket. Top 5 separate by just 0.6 of a second.
Justin, I don't even know where to begin with this race. This has been insane. Apparently, I've been missing something, not watching very much of this dirt action.
I'll buy you some tickets to some more dirt action you can see once the springtime comes. But Rogers still battling, though, with Irvine as well as Bergeron. Bergeron getting impatient. He rides the bottom side towards the flag stand. Irvine holds up Rogers. Bergeron tries to slide jump his way for 2nd, nearly gets contact. Upside down goes Rogers. Caution flag is out. Brendan Rogers flips on his lid. He's back and going as we're back in our yellow with 10 laps to go. Let's take a look at this on the GSRC replay. Man, Chris.
The stuff these dirt cars go through. He rides the wall, flips right over, gets back on all 4, and just drives it.
That was Irvine he made contact with, and it looks like, remember that 10 incident limit? He may have just reached it. He is no longer on the track. He has done so while being in the top 5 a majority of this race. He is done for the night. That means he'll be at the bottom of the standings. The lowest he can drop at the moment is about 15th position. Major implications for the standings already.
Yeah, you got to be careful with when you have such a low incident cap as we have in this division. There's really no room to be overly aggressive, and unfortunately stuff doesn't even have to completely be your fault. But tough break for Irvine as he is going to drop out of this.
Harry Stewart, though, in control of the field. 7 laps to go. Stidham in 2nd. Green flag is back up. A great launch for Stidham on the top, but Stewart sends it hard on the bottom, up to the cushion with the slide job. 3 wide, Bergeron nearly hits Stidham in the battle for second.
And how about Cole Newhoffen? One of the drivers had to transfer in from the heat race. He's now up there battling for a top 5 position.
Stidham still trying to ride now the middle line. Bergeron trying to carry as much momentum as he can from the inside. 3 others have joined him. That's where a majority of the drivers preferred at the end of the practice session prior to qualifying. Under 5 laps to go for this time by.
Look at Alex Bergeron trying to make that inside line work, running where the other guys are not. He's going to come up, try to get in front of the 36. Not going to happen.
And Bergeron hit the wall. Bergeron's around in the 360. Make it a 720. Make it 1,000 and then some. Caution is out with under 4 laps to go. And Bergeron had been trying that line the past 15-20 laps. This time, he got just a bit too close to the pit wall.
Yeah, he definitely was digging on that inside groove more so than anybody else on the track. But unfortunately, when you're racing on the edge, eventually you're going to go over.
And he got popped by somebody there as well. So a couple car incident. We are under caution here with 2 laps to go. And Harry Stewart is your leader at the head of the field. Harry Stewart, he has led a majority of the laps tonight. He'll get the white flag, it appears, this time by.
Yeah, Harry Stewart has worked his tail off to be up front for the majority of this race, like you mentioned, Justin. Can't say he didn't work for that one.
Yeah, he definitely worked so strong, so hard. Him and Stidham, you got to give credit to him as well. Both of them having a stellar battle for that front spot. They controlled the top 2 positions from green flag to checker flag. The iRacing official pace truck comes out of turn number 4. And to end off round number 1 of the CSI Shocks Fall Series, Harry Stewart takes the checker flag. He wins it at Lanier. Congratulations once again to Harry Stewart on a stellar performance tonight, leading the majority of the laps on the way to the checker flag this evening, Chris.
Yeah, like I mentioned, he definitely worked for it. These drivers put on a tremendous race, and if you were watching at home, you definitely got your money's worth on this one.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your post-race coverage. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel for the CSI Shocks Fall Series, live from Lanier Raceplex. Welcome back, everyone, to the Global Sim Racing channel for tonight's coverage of the CSI Shocks Fall Series and the 15 and over division, presented by Competition Suspension Incorporated and PitLogic. Let's take a look at your final A main results for tonight's action. Harry Stewart comes away with the first victory of the season, leading the majority of the laps. starting on the outside front row. Kobe Stidham came away second with Emerson Exum. Recovering from nearly flipping upside down to still come away in P number 3. Cole Newhoffen finished in 4th, with Hunter Brady rounding out the top 5. Kenny Miller came away 6th. Alex Bergeron, after hitting the wall, went from top 3 all the way back to 7th. Rounding out the drivers on the lead lap, and to the checkered flag was Will Sylvester. The rest of the drivers finished off in the garage area here, Chris. Some included Brendan Rogers and Tyler Chalk to round out your top 10.
Austin Irvine, another non-finisher, up there in 11th, followed by Sean Mahaffey, Jeffrey Stewart, Chase Randall, Peyton Grease, Roman Gebhardt, and Jake Erickson, and then non-starter Billy Rowley in the 79 will complete the field.
That's a look at your unofficial race results for tonight's action for the opening round of the CSI Shocks Fall Series. Joining us in the broadcast booth is your winner tonight, Harry Stewart. Harry, how are you feeling after coming away with the first victory of this Fall Series season?
Yeah, pretty stoked about that one. Got the lead, I think, lap 1, and just, yeah.
How tough was it to try and hang on, because you and Stidham were constantly going back and forth with slide jobs, trying to go through the slick stuff on the bottom, all the way back up to the cushion, back and forth?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I never found a line I was like 100% happy with, so it was always keeping me on my toes with the slide jobs as well.
Of course, a fixed series setups for these. How did the car feel as the night progressed?
I didn't mind the setup, actually. It worked better for me. I like a loose car when I'm racing, so I guess it sort of worked out for me.
Overall, though, it was a strong start to your competitive season here tonight. Of course, the next races coming up on the schedule include Limaland. Your thoughts as we head towards the second round of the season after this W tonight?
Something happened. What was that? Sorry.
Your thoughts about Limaland, the next round of this calendar?
Yeah, I like pretty much all the tracks on the calendar this season, so they're all short tracks, and the one big track we go to is my favorite in the whole iRacing, so yeah, it's all pretty cool.
All pretty cool in Harry's world, but is there anyone you want to thank before we let you get back to Celebration Land?
Yeah, everyone at United Esports, we put a new team together the last couple of days. It's all going pretty well, and yeah, HRS, BRS, UDTV, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Brett Wheeler is going to be very happy with you. He was watching on, I think, with this tonight's action. But congratulations on the round 1 victory, Harry.
Yep, cheers.
Cheers to you too. That is Harry Stewart coming away with the victory this evening. Chris, your quick final thoughts.
Well, this was definitely an exciting race, and with 4 more events left on the schedule, I think we're in for a good time, Justin.
Absolutely. And we'd like to thank you as well for tuning in for tonight's exciting action here from the Lanier Raceplex. We'd also like to thank our sponsors tonight, including CSI Incorporated, as well as PitLogic, for what has been a very competitive season start. It was looking to be a competitive one all the way to the checker flag at the end of the 5 weeks. We also like to thank the companies that provide our hardware and software for our broadcast listed up on your screen now, with special thanks going to Jude Lawan, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a more hold of her great work. Thanks to the team today once again of Chris as well as Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, or you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storemby.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As mentioned with our race-winning interview, the next race on the schedule is at Limaland Motorsports Park, the Northwest Ohio's Quarter Mile of Thunder. The operated and owned facility by the University of Northern Ohio will host the racing action on November the 26th for the 15 and over division. 14 and unders will be the following day. The upcoming races for other series are now listed up on your screen. That includes that 14 and under division, which start their competition tomorrow night. You can catch that once again here on the Global Sim Racing channel. But until then, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.